Aloha, everyone, and welcome back to Awakening to the Magic of the Menstrual Cycle. I have a very special guest here today with me, the lovely Miss Susun Weed. Thank you so much for being here, Susun. I'm so excited to have you here.
Green blessings. I'm very excited as well to have this opportunity to share with you and everyone who's watching in.
Yay! Okay, so I just wanted to read a short bio in case anyone isn't familiar with you. So, Mrs. Susun S. Weed, a green witch and wise woman, is an extraordinary teacher with a joyous spirit, a powerful presence, and encyclopedic knowledge of herbs and health. She is the voice of the wise woman way, where common weeds, simple ceremony, and compassionate listening support and nourish health, wholeness, and holiness. She has opened hearts to the magic and medicine of the green nations for 5 decades. Miss Weed's 6 herbal medicine books focus on women's health topics, including menopause, childbearing, and breast health. Susun's newest book, Abundantly Well, 7 Medicines, is already being hailed as a landmark, critically needed and timely. It redefines patient-centered care. What a beautiful and potent little bio.
And there's Abundantly Well.
Beautiful.
I don't know if
you have a whole
gotten a chance to look at it yet.
When did you get it published?
December.
Nice. So it is still very fresh. And you have a whole handful of, sounds like, very powerful, useful books for people to choose from.
My very first book, Wise Woman Herbal for the Childbearing Year, has been continuously in print for 36 years.
Wow.
My second book, Healing Wise, has been continuously in print for 33 years.
Wow.
In fact, every single one of my books is still in print and still being used. How wonderful.
That's got to make you feel good.
It does. You know, it's because the herbs don't change their minds.
Mm.
I was invited to submit a paper for a midwifery group. And then at the end, they said, well, your paper is very, very good, but your references are so out of date. And I said, what? And they said, you have references that are like 100 years old. We can't accept those references. I said, they're herbal references. Herbs don't change their mind. They're not drugs. And they said, well, we're not allowed to have any references that are more than 2 years old.
Wow.
Because drugs change that rapidly. I was talking to plantain, you know, the common plantain. It grows in lawns everywhere. I've seen it in Costa Rica. I've seen it up in Alaska. Right. I've seen it in Japan. I've seen it in New York City. Plantain grows everywhere. And I was hanging with plantain and said, talk to me about yourself. Tell me who you are. And plantain said, I am a Quaker lady. I am here to provide peace. And I grow right under your feet because I am plain and I am simple. And yet I am available and very, very useful for all of those little annoying things that happen to you. Now, my sweetheart is a Shakespearean actor. And so he has the kind of books that allows him to go and look up plantain and find where Shakespeare has talked about plantain. A concordance. And so he did. And Shakespeare lived what? Hundreds of years ago, right?
Yeah.
Shakespeare says, the plain plantain who grows underfoot to help with healing.
Beautiful.
Plants don't change what they're saying.
Definitely.
Once you learn how to connect with them, how to have green allies, you're good. You're good no matter where in the world you are. You're good no matter what time in the world you are.
I love that. Accessing the living library. So on that note, I would love to ask you what your advice is for anyone that's wanting to start their journey with connecting with plants who doesn't really have much relationship with them.
Well, that's an excellent lead in. I don't know if you did it on purpose, but I'm offering a gift to the women who, and anyone else who's participating in this teleseminar series. And that is a gift of my course, Drink Your Way to Health with Nourishing Herbal Infusions. So I'm sure you will tell them more about that and how they can access that. But that would be my first piece of advice, right? Start drinking nourishing herbal infusions. In fact, what I say to people is don't change your diet. Let your diet change you. So no
Mm.
matter what you're eating, if you're eating junk food, if you're eating raw food, which is worse than junk food, if you're eating any kind of diet at all, if you start to include nourishing herbal infusions as your primary beverage, they will change your body so rapidly that your taste and desire for other foods will change. Wow. Let me give you an example of this. Every year in the summertime, I have an event called the Green Goddess Week. And women come here and they live here with me for 1 week. And they are only allowed to drink nourishing herbal infusions. They're not allowed to drink water even. In fact, I'm not sure if you're conversant enough with cells and cell structure. So let me just tell everybody that every cell in your body is protected by a membrane, which completely encircles that cell. And that membrane is a layer of lipids, which means fats.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that fat and water don't mix.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you're drinking water, it cannot get into the cells, which are protected by fat. Nourishing herbal infusions, however, actually have the opposite valence to your blood and to your cells. So when you drink a nourishing herbal infusion, it's like two magnets, two opposite magnets that are magnetically attracted, and the nutrients in the nourishing herbal infusions go right into your cells. In fact, you don't even need to digest them. When you're drinking nourishing herbal infusions, you're getting loads of minerals and vitamins, proteins, polyphenols, all those great things you've heard about. They're in plants.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes right into your bloodstream. Wow.
Totally wow.
Totally wow. So are you drinking infusions right now? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so I like to make myself different herbal teas. I just
No,
like
not a tea. Absolutely not.
Okay, tell
An
me.
infusion is not a tea. A tea is a small amount of fresh or dried herb brewed for a short time. And often you mix herbs together when you make a tea.
Yes.
An infusion is 1 ounce by weight of one herb only, brewed in 1 quart of boiling water for a minimum of 4 hours.
It's like a decoction.
No, it's not. A decoction is where you boil it. This is not boiled.
Okay.
You boil the water and you pour it over the herb, and then it rests like that. It's not on the heat. A decoction is actually a reduction, and we are not reducing it at all. Just to look at calcium as kind of a marker mineral, a cup of nettle tea using a teaspoon of dried nettle will contain about 5 milligrams of calcium.
Okay.
If you use fresh nettle, it'll have about 1 milligram of calcium in 1 cup. But if you make a nettle infusion, it will have about 250 milligrams of calcium in 1 cup.
So how much nettle do you need to use to make an infusion?
1 ounce of dried nettle by weight per quart of boiling water.
Okay. And you heat it up to boil, and then you pour that over the herb and let it sit for 4 hours.
So what I suggest is that people get a digital scale with a TARE function, a tare function. And you put your quart canning jar on the scale and push on. And now the scale takes away the weight of the jar, so it says 0. You bring it up to 1 ounce or 30 grams, whichever scale you're using, by putting dried herb into the jar. And then you take your jar off the scale because you don't want to pour boiling water on your scale. Digital things do not like to be dripped on by boiling water. You take it away, put the scale away. Meanwhile, your water has been put up to boil. And when it boils, you pour it over the herb in the jar. Use a wooden spoon to stir it. Add more water till the jar is completely full. And then cap it tightly and let it sit for anywhere from 4 hours to overnight. Most people, myself included, make their nourishing herbal infusion the night before. Then it's ready the next morning to strain or to go. There's a wonderful story from an MD who was studying with me, and she had made her nettle infusion. There are 5 herbs that I use primarily in rotation for the nourishing herbal infusions, and nettle is one of them. So she had made her nettle infusion the night before. She was a single mom to 4 teenage daughters, and when she got up the next morning for her emergency room shift, she just didn't have time to strain her infusion. So she just grabbed it off the counter and went to the emergency room with it. And she said the emergency room was calmer than being at home with 4 teenage daughters. So into the emergency room comes another physician that she knows, and she says to him, Dr. Pasani, what are you doing here? He says, oh, Maureen, I went home to India to visit the family. I got a bad bug. I have lost 10 pounds to bloody diarrhea in the past 2 days. Now, you don't have to be a medical professional to know this is a big problem. In fact, no one has ever died of constipation, but children routinely die of diarrhea. Diarrhea is a huge killer, and especially this kind of bloody diarrhea that goes so fast. So the interns are kind of scurrying around, and they said, oh, Dr. Noreen, what should we do? Do we, we're looking at his blood, and his electrolytes are like, the electrolytes are the minerals in your blood. I don't know if you remember, sometime back there was an Olympics runner who hit the finish line and died.
Whoa.
Because his electrolytes just bottomed out. So you can die from lack of electrolytes. He said, should we give him a blood print? She said, no, that's not going to work well enough. We're going to give him my nettle infusion. And she showed me the chart of how quickly his electrolytes came back up. Within the hour, his electrolytes were back at fullness.
Wow.
Pretty amazing. Nettle is the herb of energy. If you're working in some profession that requires you to be on the go for long hours, or to suddenly wake up in the middle of the night, like midwives or emergency medical professionals or moms, right? Nettle is an herb that you are really going to appreciate, because nettle gives you that smooth, consistent, solid energy for as many hours as you need it. You wake up refreshed, ready to go. You go right to sleep when you're ready to go to sleep. Nettle is not a stimulant. In fact, what it does is it rebuilds the adrenal glands. So it actually helps to eliminate your reaction to stress, because it's rebuilding the adrenals. The adrenals produce less cortisol, and you're feeling a whole lot happier. Wow. And that's just one of the 5 nourishing herbal infusions that I rotate through. Stinging nettle, oat straw, the herb of feeling good and being juicy. Think about sowing your wild oats, or feeling your oats. Yeah. All right. Linden, the world's leading preventative of colds and flus, and a fabulous curative plant should you get a cold or a flu, safe enough for premature infants, women of 115, and everybody in between. Linden is quite rich in a compound called quercetin. And if you've been reading up about possible natural ways to deal with COVID-19, you may have run across this word, quercetin. Quercetin supplements are selling off from health food store shelves because of the roar around quercetin being able to kill coronaviruses. One of the best sources of quercetin is onion peels, red onion peels or yellow onion peels. It makes no difference. Just boil them up, and then you can use that to cook your grain in, or as a soup base. You could drink it, but it tastes like onion peels. But linden doesn't taste like onion peels, and it's also a superb source of quercetin. It's a wonderful, wonderful herb used worldwide. Stinging nettle, the herb of energy. Oat straw for being juicy. Linden, the herb of being full-hearted, the herb of feeling protected by your mom. Right? Red clover, one of the world's most amazing herbs, used in so many different ways. And if you look at the root system of red clover, one red clover plant has roots that go out 360 degrees, and they go deep down into the soil. A graduate student in the Plains, for his graduate project, dug up a single red clover plant, took all the fine little roots apart, measured them, and found that one red clover plant has enough root structure to circle the entire planet. Wow. Well, that's a these are mineral-rich, protein-rich herbs, right? That really give our bodies what they need so that we can be healthy, not because we've pushed our body to do something it doesn't know how to do or want to do, but because we have filled in the spaces. At that Green Goddess Week, where they only get to drink infusion, they don't get dessert. For the first couple of days, they're very disappointed that they don't get any dessert. And then on Saturday, we do our goddess archetype presentations. Everyone presents herself as her goddess, which she's been working on all week. And I pass out chocolate bars and cookies. some basket with all kinds of different nice organic dark chocolate, nice, coconut macaroons and organic fig Newtons and chocolate chip cookies, bring the goods there. And I pass it around. I make sure everybody has some. And then in between, as the women are going from this goddess to that goddess, they say, hey, let's pass that basket around again. There's more chocolate. There's more cookies. And then the next day, which is our initiation day, I bring the basket out and I say, this is how much is left. And they look at it and they say, Susan, the most remarkable thing, that chocolate tasted so good and I'd really been craving it. And those cookies were so wonderful and I'd been wanting a cookie. But I was satisfied with a cookie. I was satisfied with a piece of chocolate. At home, if I get a bar of chocolate, I keep eating it and eating it and eating it. If I get a cookie, I want another and another and another. But here, I could feel I was replete with minerals. I was full with usable protein. My body had what it needed. And sure, that sweet still was good, but I wasn't eating the sweet to try to make up for my lack of minerals. Don't change your diet. Let your diet change you. That's how fast it happens. They come on Monday. By Saturday, their bodies have already changed and changed in their relationship to sugar because the nutrients in these nourishing herbal infusions go into your blood and build you instantaneously. So we have stinging nettle, the herb of energy. We have oat straw for being juicy and feeling your oats. We have linden filled with quercetin, great for the open heart and protecting yourself. We have red clover, the herb that spans the world, mineral rich, protein rich. Wow, an amazing herb. And comfrey leaf, comfrey the comforting. There are herbalists, I will admit it, who are very upset with me for recommending comfrey leaf. And they say, you're going to kill people. People are going to be poisoned by that. And I say, you know what? You have nothing to base that on. That's a rumor. That's a rumor that has never been substantiated. There are alkaloids in the comfrey root that could possibly impair the functioning of your liver. But the literature does not have very many people who've been impaired or hurt or have died from that, right? 2 neonatal deaths is all I can find. I've been drinking comfrey as part of my rotation. So if I have a quart of nettle, a quart of oat straw, a quart of linden, a quart of red clover, and a quart of comfrey over a period of 5 days, and there's 30 days in a month. That means in 1 month I'm having 6 quarts of comfrey. Over a 12-month span, I'm having 72 quarts of comfrey. That's almost 20 gallons of comfrey leaf infusion that I'm consuming over the course of a year. I had a liver function test done recently, and they told me that my liver, they were hard-pressed to believe that it was the liver of a woman in her mid-70s because it was functioning as well as a liver that was half its age.
That's amazing.
So I have to say that comfrey has in no way had a detrimental effect on my liver, but it has a incredibly beneficial effect on the interstitium. I don't know if you've heard of this new organ, the interstitium. The interstitium is everything that connects you. So there's the fascia, which is the tissue just under the skin, right? And that's part of the interstitium. There's the mucous surfaces of the digestive system and the respiratory system and the reproductive system. And those are part of the interstitium. There's the synovial fluids, the things that help your joints, and that's part of the interstitium. And comfrey feeds and nourishes the interstitium. It feeds and nourishes the tendons, the ligaments, the skin, and everything that connects us together. And it makes those structures stronger and more flexible. I was holding hands with Juliette de Berkeley Levy, the wonderful herbalist, and she stroked the palm of my hand. And then she looked up. We were at an herbalist gathering, and she said, "This is a hand that never works." Now, why would she say that? I work a lot. I work in the garden. I work in the barn. I milk my dairy goats. I don't have a dishwasher. I wash all my dishes by hand. And when I make a cheese, I might be washing for an hour to wash all of the milk vessels and to get everything just the way I want it. So why did she say this is a hand that never works? Because comfrey has made my skin amazingly flexible and strong. Dermatologists come up to me and go, "You're kidding. This skin is in its mid-70s. What are you doing? What are you putting on there? I said, I'm not putting anything on it. It's what I'm putting inside myself. Comfrey brings that strength and flexibility. And I don't think I'm going too far to the side to say it also brings a strength and flexibility of spirit as well as of bodily tissues.
Definitely.
Now, there are other herbs that we can use as infusions. Hibiscus is an up-and-coming infusion. We've actually found that there's components in hibiscus that can reverse triple negative breast cancer, which is a very hard breast cancer to deal with. Certainly not on its own, but wow. Hibiscus is as good as hawthorn or motherwort or passiflora in helping to reduce high blood pressure, especially in women. Wow. Hibiscus is really gets in there and hydrates fast, especially on hot days because it's sour, and that sour taste really gets us all lubricated. So especially in the summertime, we usually have hibiscus infusion just hanging out because the other infusions are rich in protein and they don't hang out. You basically make an infusion and you drink it the next day or over 2 days. That would work too. But hibiscus can hang out in the refrigerator for up to a week because it's not very rich in protein, but it has all of these other amazing things. Astragalus, a Chinese herb that has been brought into the heart of American herbalism. We love astragalus, right? It nourishes the immune system in a way that no American herb nourishes the immune system. It goes into all parts of the immune system and makes the immune system so much happier and so much more effective. Astragalus can be made into infusion and drunk, and I also keep powdered astragalus in the kitchen so I can add it to food. Stephen Booner, in his book Healing Lyme, also says that astragalus helps to prevent Lyme disease from entering your body. And since I live in the country and there are ticks, and I find ticks on me, I like to keep some astragalus infusion around. It doesn't keep quite as long as the hibiscus because it is a root, and that means it has some sugars in it, and those are fermentable. But it does keep longer than just the day or two that our protein-rich herbs keep for. I had a woman write to me, and she was diagnosed with severe osteoporosis. She said she didn't really mind, but she did mind that she was feeling kind of tired. Her daughter had just graduated from a live-out apprenticeship with me, and she said to her daughter, "What can I use that would give me more energy?" You could probably answer that now. Stinging nettle, Susan, the herb of energy. You're right. That's exactly what she said. As a matter of fact, she was such a good daughter that she bought the nettle, the dried nettle for her mom. She weighed out an ounce of stinging nettle and put it in a quart jar for her mom, and then gave her the scale, the quart jar, the rest of the pound of nettle, and another jar, and said, "Mom, all you have to do is boil the water, pour it in the jar, stir it around with a wooden spoon, put the lid on it when the jar is completely full, let it steep overnight. The next day," and she gave her a strainer, "pour it through the strainer, squeeze the herb to get all the good out of it, throw it in your composter just out in your lawn, and then refrigerate that infusion and drink it throughout the day." Nettle infusion is not at its best heated up unless you add some miso to it. I like nettle infusion over ice. And many people say, Susan, over ice nettle infusion tastes like a cold glass of milk on a really hot day. It does. Every vitamin to be needed by human beings is found in nettle. Every mineral, including trace minerals known to be needed in human nutrition, is found in nettle. Nettle is the world's greatest source of vitamin K, and it's loaded with proteins and a huge number of other constituents. Wow. How totally amazing, right? So she got her mom to drinking nettle, and her mom, after a couple of weeks, said, "You are right. I feel really energized. It's really superb. I really like this a lot." And you told me about your teacher, Susan Weed, and that there are other nourishing herbal infusions. So I'm curious about the other nourishing herbal infusions. Could you tell me about those? So in the letter that this woman was writing, she said, "My routine became Sunday night, make a quart of nettle infusion and make a quart of oat straw infusion. Let them sit overnight. Monday morning, strain the oat straw, squeeze the herb, put that in the refrigerator, strain the nettle, squeeze the herb, put that in the refrigerator, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, drink those two infusions. Wednesday night, make a quart of nettle," she liked her nettle, "and make a quart of red clover. Thursday morning, squeeze the nettle, put the liquid in the refrigerator, squeeze the red clover, put the liquid in the refrigerator," and then she drank those Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and she said Sunday she took off. Within 18 months, Her doctor called her to say, you have to come back for another bone scan because the machine must have been malfunctioning.
Mm.
And when she got the second scan, it was the same as the first one, showing that her bone mass, she was now in her late 60s, was better than it had been in her 40s.
Wow.
That's how fast the minerals and nourishing herbal infusions move into our bodies. And what uses the most minerals? The bones don't use the most minerals. What uses minerals is your nervous system, your immune system, and your hormonal system. A lot of women who say, my hormones are out of whack. What can I do about my hormones? Oh, my menstrual cycle. Oh, my menopause. Oh my gosh, what's going on? And I say, the way is not to tinker with your hormones. It's a pretty subtle system, and it's always going up and down. You can't ever balance your hormones unless you want to be dead, because hormones are supposed to shift and change. But you can mineralize. And when you mineralize, what's going to happen is you will have the components that your body needs to make the hormones that it wants. The other thing, of course, that you need to do is you need to be able to take those hormones apart. If hormones are going up and down, that's because they're being in the blood and then they're being taken out of the blood and recycled. And the liver is responsible for doing that. And there are people who like to do a burdock root infusion to strengthen the liver, or a dandelion root infusion to strengthen the liver. Those are some other herbs that could be used as infusions. As I said, you're going to be getting a free course if you want on working with nourishing herbal infusions. And in every single one of my books, I talk about nourishing herbal infusions. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the very best ideas I've ever had. Drink your quart of nourishing herbal infusion every day. You know what I like about the story about that woman who improved her bone mass?
What?
That wasn't what she was trying to do.
Yeah. It was a bonus.
It was a bonus for her. In fact, that's why she wrote me.
That's
She
wonderful.
said, I can't figure out why my bone mass is so much better, and neither can my doctor, because I'm not doing any of the things like taking calcium or exercising that should make my bone mass better. Do you have any idea? And I, of course, said, it's the nourishing herbal infusions that you're drinking.
That's so amazing and really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. You know, that this whole idea about the hormones shifting, it's very interesting. Partly because when hormones are presented to people, they're presented in a really simplified form. For instance, you may have heard, you start making estrogen when you start menstruating, and you stop making estrogen when you stop menstruating. Have you heard that?
I've heard something along those lines, yeah.
Big lie. Huge lie. A girl fetus, and all babies start out as girls. The uterine environment is very, very high in estrogen. All fetuses start out with female genitals, in fact. And if that fetus has X in every cell, then it uses that estrogen and retains itself as a girl, as a female. If that fetus has XY in its cells, then it can't use the estrogen, and its female genitals morph into male genitals, the uterus becoming the prostate gland. So I often say the prostate gland is just a uterus that never got a real chance. So at about 20 weeks of gestation, those fetuses with XX in their cells who've been imbibing the estrogen in this high estrogen environment start making their own estrogen. Human women make 30 different kinds of estrogen, and we start making 29 kinds of estrogen when we're in utero, when we're still 20 weeks away from being born. In fact, every woman alive makes those 29 kinds of estrogen every day of her life, from 20 weeks before she's born until the day she dies. And this is true of women who have gone through menopause. It's true of women who've had their uterus removed. It's even true of women who've had their ovaries removed. Wow. Because not all estrogens are made by the ovaries. So what is true about that statement is the 30th estrogen. Remember the story of Cinderella? No, not Cinderella, a Sleeping Beauty. It's the Sleeping Beauty we want to talk about. So the Sleeping Beauty starts with a christening for this beautiful baby girl that the king has had. And the king invites the 12 good fairies, but does not invite the 13th fairy. Who, of course, crashes the party and gives our little girl a problematic gift. And that
Mm.
problematic gift is that at a certain age, she will prick her finger, begin to bleed, and fall asleep.
Mm.
Now, if we look at this story from a feminist perspective, 13 is the number of women because it's a prime number and it can't be divided. And 12 is the number of men because it can be divided into groups and thus conquered.
Mm.
So the 13th fairy and the 13th in general will always be the symbol of women's power.
Hmm.
So the king, right off the bat, is saying to his girl child, I don't want you to be a powerful woman. I'm not going to invite the power here. I'm just going to invite the little fairies. But the power comes anyhow. And the king, reacting in a very typical patriarchal fashion, says, I'm not going to allow this to happen. I will remove from the kingdom anything that my little girl could touch that could prick her finger, which involves removing all of the spinning wheels.
Mm.
On her 13th birthday, our princess finds something that she's never seen before in the castle, which is a spiral staircase. Of
Mm.
course, our DNA is a double helix, a spiral, and she goes up this spiral staircase. And at the top of the spiral staircase is a small room with an old woman spinning. And our princess has never seen a spinning wheel before, so she walks over to it and touches the distaff, which is metal and sharp, and pricks her finger. Now, many girls start to menstruate around the age of 13.
Mhm.
So again, when we look at this from a feminist perspective, what we're seeing is she has started to menstruate, and the maiden, the mother, and the crone, the triple goddess. So the maiden has now entered her mother phase, and there is the crone to guide her on her way. But
Mm.
because she's living in a patriarchy, she falls asleep to her power.
Mm.
And how often does that happen to our teenage girls? That they're vibrant and healthy and active little girls, and suddenly they prick their finger and whoa, and now they think they have to act a certain way in order to be a girl. And they
Mm.
lose their power. So this is a very deep story. Well, estradiol is that 13th fairy. It's the 30th estrogen. Estradiol, sometimes called estradiol, is the estrogen that starts being made when you start to bleed and stops being made when you stop bleeding, because estradiol is the hormone that triggers a whole cascade that allows you to ovulate. Estradiol goes up to the pituitary and the pineal, and they say, oh, wow, look at that. There's some ovaries around here making estradiol. Isn't that amazing? Let's make some follicle stimulating hormone. Now, ovaries don't have any eggs, they have follicles. And so when that follicle stimulating hormone is made and it goes down to the ovaries, the follicles get stimulated, and they say, oh, there's going to be a Miss Egg contest. I'm going to be Miss Egg. Let's primp up. Let's get ready. And under the influence of follicle stimulating hormone, the follicles do plump up and primp up and get ready to get out of the ovary. There's no natural opening in the ovary. So to get out, the egg has to punch a hole in the ovary to get out of there. And only one egg is supposed to win the Miss Egg contest and pop out of there. And in humans, our eggs are the opposite of the eggs you're used to. You're used to seeing the white around the yellow. In human eggs have the yellow around the white.
Whoa.
And as that egg pops out, only the white part pops out, and the yellow stays, which produces luteinizing hormone or yellow hormone. And the eggs that didn't become Miss Egg also produce luteinizing hormone, and luteinizing hormone then causes the production of progesterone for gestation, the hormone of gestation. So you can see the hormones are going up, they're going down. One hormone is made, it triggers the production of another hormone. You never want your hormones to be balanced. That's not what we're looking at here. We're looking at making sure that you have enough chi and enough minerals and a good enough liver function to make those hormones, get rid of those hormones, and then make the next hormone in the cascade, so your body is never getting a mixed message. If you can't make the hormones, or if your liver can't clear them, then you might get a message that says go up at the same time that you're getting a message that says go down. And that's what makes women a little crazy premenstrually, if they're not being able to clear those hormones, because there's a lot of hormonal cascade going on during those days. So drink your Nourishing Herbal infusions, make sure your liver is feeling good, and you will be surprised at how much better you feel about your menstrual cycle, about your menopause, and about being a woman.
About everything.
Yeah.
Sounds like just make everything better.
Makes everything better. You got it. So switch off from your teas and start making nourishing herbal infusions.
I'm definitely going to do that. It's so synchronistic how like so many things that you're telling me are like really relevant to exactly what I'm experiencing right now. And I'm really enjoying your storytelling. You are such a phenomenal storyteller.
Thank you.
I just wanted to comment about one of the very first things that you were talking about, how when you have women come to your goddess week.
The Green Goddess Week, yes. Green Goddess Apprentice Week.
Yeah, that is what you shared about the way that the herbal infusions work just within that short period of time to create, what is the word that I'm looking for? Satiation?
Mineral, yes, mineral fullness. You get filled up with minerals.
Yeah, like that is huge, because one of the things that's playing, I'm sure you understand, one of the biggest things that's plaguing our country and the modern world is this sugar and food addiction. So that is so huge. It's like, that's something that I have battled for my whole life. It's something that I see almost every single person that I know struggle with. And I never came across a piece of information like that that pointed to a relatively simple solution. And that makes perfect sense as to why we continue to need to eat, because our bodies aren't getting what they really need, which is in herbs.
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but the easiest access to that is through Nourishing Herbal Infusions. Belinda came to Apprentice, and she said when she came to Apprentice, she didn't understand that I consider chocolate a food group. So I provide at the Apprentice House a 5-kilogram bar of dark chocolate. That's over 10 pounds of dark chocolate for the Apprentice group, because chocolate is a food group. Very heart healthy too. One of the true miracle foods in the world. So she brought her own M&Ms with her. And she had decided to camp out, which is something I really encourage apprentices to do, to actually live right on the earth while you're here doing your apprenticeship. And she came to Talking Stick, and the rule of Talking Stick is only the person who's holding the talking stick can speak. So she looked at me and she said, "I hate you." Now this was very exciting for me to hear, because a shamanic apprenticeship has 3 stages: the false positive transference. Oh, wow, this person is so great. I'm going to go learn everything I can from them. They're perfect. They can do no harm. Then the false negative transference. What am I doing here? This person is awful. They're ugly. They're terrible. Because, of course, the shaman is reflecting back all of the things you don't want to see about yourself. Right? And the shaman is willing to endure that negative transference and to be seen as ugly and awful and terrible, knowing that it's their reflective nature and not their inner nature. And then the successful apprentice comes to the true positive transference, which says, you are a human being. Like all human beings, you make mistakes. You have flaws. None of us are perfect. Nonetheless, what you're offering is something that I honor and respect. Thank you for it. So when an apprentice says, "I hate you," I go, "All right, we're in stage 2. She hates me. That's great. That's wonderful." And really fast too. Sometimes it takes them almost their whole apprenticeship before they'll allow themselves to hate me. Right? So then we don't get very far there, because you really got to get to that, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be there. I don't like this person, in order to get on and into what you're supposed to be doing there. So I thought, wow, she hates me. That's cool. I wonder what she hates me about, because of course that gives me a lot of information about what we're going to be working on. And I can't say anything. It's talking stick. So she looks at me and she says, "I hate you. I hate you because you made my M&Ms taste bad." I have never been hated before for making M&Ms taste bad, and I'm wondering what she's thinking. Does she think I snuck up to her tent in the middle of the night and poured pepper sauce on her M&Ms? What is she talking about? I can't say anything. It's talking stick, but she continues on. She says, "I didn't know you considered chocolate a food group, so I brought my own M&Ms. And I opened my second bag of them last night, and I wondered what on earth had happened to them, because as soon as I opened the bag, the smell was just awful." She said, "But I thought, maybe I was just hypersensitive. So I poured some in my hand and I brought them up to my mouth, and my mouth went and wouldn't let me put them in my mouth, Susan." She said, "You ruined it for me. You totally ruined M&Ms. My body no longer is willing to accept junk chocolate, artificial color, and artificial flavors. 10 days.
That's amazing.
She was a very successful apprentice. She did 2 apprenticeships and worked for me in between. And we're still in connection. It's my commitment that I commit to each one of my apprentices for my entire life. That I'm available to them. I'm still in touch with apprentice number 1, who apprenticed over 36 years ago.
Wow. How long have you been doing this work for?
I first got interested in herbs and herbal medicine in 1965.
It's incredible. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and for offering as much as you do, because I think I personally view you as one of the most valuable and priceless assets to this planet, is having true wisdom keepers and matriarchs.
I am so honored. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you can't replace a woman like you. That's not something that you can buy, and you've been at this for a long time, and it requires living through experiences and collecting information for a long time to get to the level of maturity and fruition.
Exactly.
That's your at.
Exactly, right. I don't mind being an elder, but I sure don't like when people call me elderly. The other day, a young man said to me, "Okay, young lady, we're ready for you." And as I was walking with him, I said to him, "I know you didn't think about it and didn't really mean anything, but you know, it takes a lot of guts and a lot of endurance to get to your middle 70s. And you take that away from me. And you demean me when you call me a young woman. I'm not a young woman. I'm an old woman."
You are a wise woman, that's for sure. Okay, so man, I'm gonna have to go back and watch this and take notes, because holy crap, you are so much useful information. This is really incredible. So aside from that 5 rotation of herbs, I wanted to ask you if there was any specific herbs that women could harvest easily that would help support their systems or cycles, but I feel like you kind of answered that. If there's any
so. I think the next thing that we want to look at, especially in terms of women's health, is fats. Remember that every single one of your cells is protected by fat. And hormones, in fact, are specialized kinds of fats. If you remember Tinker Toys, and I hear that Tinker Toys is still around, the Tinker Toys have a round piece, right? And there's a hole in the center and then holes along the edges. So every hormone starts with a round piece, which is cholesterol, which is a fat. And then different sticks of different colors are put into that cholesterol. So the only difference between this hormone and that hormone is the colors and lengths of the sticks. And this is how the liver can take the hormones apart, kick them back into circulation, and we can make news from them. Pretty amazing process. But we have to have cholesterol. We have to have really good fats in our diet. We need omega fatty acids. Right? And there's different kinds of omega fatty acids. And one of the things that has happened in the modern diet is that the ratio of those omega fatty acids has gotten very skewed away from animal fats. Animal fats, especially from animals raised on pasture rather than raised on corn or soy, are some of the most ideal fats for women's reproductive health every day of her life. In fact, women who come to me and say, "I'm having a problem getting pregnant," the 2 suggestions that I offer them are: have animal fat at every meal. That can be butter, eggs, fish, full-fat milk, full-fat yogurt. It can be meat, any source of animal fat. You want that at every meal, and start drinking more red clover infusion. So you might do nettle, oat straw, red clover. comfrey, linden, red clover. So you've just
Mm.
added red clover in twice into that. And no matter how old the woman, no matter how near to menopause, if that woman is willing to get good animal fats into her diet and to drink her nourishing herbal infusions, her success rate in terms of getting pregnant is very high.
Mm. That's amazing. And I didn't know that about animal fats, but I do
Yeah,
know fats are really important. In my Ayurvedic training, I learned that they're what protects cells. And
exactly.
I talked to somebody about the concept of that like low fat or fat-free fad that we went
Mhm,
through
mhm,
culturally,
mhm.
tying into some of the illnesses that like elderly get, like Alzheimer's and dementia and things just like not working properly in the brain anymore because maybe they didn't get the right kind of
The
fat.
cholesterol, the brain is very rich in cholesterol. You deprive a child of cholesterol, you make a child be vegan for the first 2 years of its life, it will be stupid its whole life.
Wow. Yeah, that's really important
It's
information.
real child abuse to deprive a young child of animal fats.
Mm.
It's
So,
not healthy. It's not healthy for an adult. But, I say to adults, I say, you want to destroy yourself by poor dietary choice, you go right ahead. You're an adult. But you leave the kids out of it. In order to develop good brain function, you need cholesterol and quite a bit of it, especially in those first 2 years. And the fats from fish are especially important. And the easy way to remember the fish to eat is smash. Salmon, mackerel,
mm-hmm.
anchovies,
Mm-hmm.
sardines, and herring. SMASH. Smash. Get some smash fish in your diet. Make sure that you have at least 2 servings every single week
Mm.
of smash fish. Salmon, mackerel, anchovy, sardines, herring. I
Mm-hmm.
once did a little study about women in sardines, and I asked women, do you eat sardines? And if they answered yes, I asked them who they ate sardines with. And I found it was very rare for women to actually have a close person that they could eat sardines with, although it did happen, but that a great many women ate sardines with their cat.
Yeah, I could see.
The cats are very appreciative of the sardines.
Yes, mine get it often. I just want to interrupt you for a second and ask you about the first 2 years of a child's brain development.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they get cholesterol from breast milk?
Yes.
Okay, good. Wonderful.
But not enough.
Okay.
We take children from breast to infusion. So the
What is that?
first liquid that they have is Nourishing Herbal Infusion.
Okay.
And then full fat dairy products.
Yeah.
Yogurt is a good starter. It needs to
Mm.
be full fat yogurt. And then cheese. And then if the child likes it and desires it, full fat milk.
Mm.
People often think of milk as like the dairy product, but yogurt and cheese are far better. And extensive studies have showed that no amount of yogurt and no amount of cheese has any impact on bone density.
Yeah.
So you can eat as much yogurt, as much cheese as you want all your life long. And it doesn't make mucus or clog you up. And it doesn't decrease your bone density. But more than a quart of milk a day can decrease your bone density. Most women generally don't drink that much milk.
Yeah.
It's a rare child that does, and especially if that child is drinking infusions. And the children love the infusions. All the children who've been brought up, who come to the Wise Woman Center, their first question for me is, what infusion are we drinking today? They know them, they know how they taste, they know how they like them, and they thrive on the nourishing herbal infusions. As I said, from premature infant to 115-year-old woman and everybody in between, those nourishing herbal infusions are a great way to go.
Mm. I'm so grateful for that that tip and information. I actually have some nettle, and I think I'm going to start my first infusion when I get off this call with you.
You got some dried nettle.
Yeah, I actually am in the premenstrual phase right now, and today in particular I was feeling so tired and moody, and I think it's because
Wow.
my liver needs some help
There you go. Nettle is poised to give you that help that you need. How wonderfully exciting. You know, the other thing that I find that people do that really shortchanges them on minerals is they don't break the cell walls of their plant matter.
Tell me more.
Well, I'm knocking on a piece of wood.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cell walls of a plant.
Mm.
Cell walls are in plants. We have cell membranes, which are fat, but plants have cell walls, which are tough, like a piece of wood, right? You can drive a pickup truck over a lawn and then drive it off the lawn, and the next day you can't even see where the pickup truck had been.
Yeah.
That's how strong cell walls are. You can't chew through cell walls. Juicing doesn't do anything to cell walls. There are only 5 ways to break down cell walls in plants and allow the nutrients that are held behind that cell wall to actually be available to your tissues and your body. The primary way, of course, is cooking. But cooking for an extended time or until the cell wall is broken. How can we tell if the cell wall is broken? There's a color change and a texture change. So if you're cooking your vegetables until they are crunchy and bright colored, you haven't broken any cell walls. You might as well put them under your pillow and sleep with them. You're not getting anything from them. Kale, collards need to be cooked for a minimum of 1 hour.
Wow.
Better 2 or 3. And
Wow.
then you actually get the minerals that are in there. Minerals are rocks. They're indestructible. Heat can't destroy a mineral. If you find a rock with ore in it, you heat it up to get that mineral out of it, right?
Yeah.
That's how you get minerals, by heating stuff up and really heating it up. You can't get rid of them. Right? We have this idea that somehow if we cook something, the nutrients are disappearing. No. When we start cooking things, we start getting the nutrients. We know that as soon as we find good evidence of cooking in prehistorical humans, that the human lifespan doubled.
Wow.
That before we cooked our food, we lived about 30 years. And once we started cooking our food, we lived about 60 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
Huge difference. That it actually has to be cooked until there's a color change or a texture change. I cook my carrots for an hour. I cook my broccoli for an hour. People say, it will be mush. I say, it's not mush. And not only that, you come here and you watch the children's relationship to the vegetables. Parents are amazed because the children only want to eat the vegetables and they want more and more of them. And they say, why is this? I said, because they're cooked and their bodies recognize nutrition. They don't want to eat that warm, raw stuff you've been serving them. Of course not. Nobody would. You've convinced yourself it's somehow better, but it's not. Your food needs to be cooked. It needs to be cooked at a high temperature for a fairly long time if it's plant matter, in order to get the nutrients out of that plant. You don't have to cook, though. Heat is not the only way to break the cell wall. You can break the cell wall by freezing. So if somebody says, here, Susan, here's a basket of blueberries that I went out and picked for you, I say, thank you very much, and put them in the freezer. And you know what? That's what native people did too. They would usually wait until after the frost if they could to harvest berries. Or if they did harvest the berries, they would, if they possibly could, freeze them, or they would pound them with animal fat. So that's a third way of cooking, is to add fat. And I often ask people, do you have a tie or a blouse with an oil stain? And everybody says, yeah, because we all do. And I say, how do you get it out? And they say, you can't get it out. I said, that's right, because oil has cooked the dead cell walls of the fibers of what you were wearing. That's how far into the structure oil can get in terms of breaking cell walls. And again, you can see that color change and that texture change, right? You make a pesto with basil, you will see the basil changes color, and you will see the texture of the basil has changed because of the oil. In a study looking at incidence of breast cancer and salad consumption, women who ate salad without salad dressing on a daily basis, women who ate salad daily with no fat salad dressing, and women who ate salad daily with low fat salad dressing had the same incidence of breast cancer as women who never ate salad. The women who ate salad on a daily basis with 2 tablespoons of olive oil on it had a reduction in their breast cancer rate. Raw food is a total loss. We
Yeah.
cannot pick up nutrition from raw food. So we can cook sufficiently. We can freeze. We can cover in oil. We can dehydrate. That's why we're using dry herb for our nourishing herbal infusion, because the cell wall is broken. Remember that little pattern we had? You make the tea with the fresh nettle, you get 1 milligram of calcium, cell wall's intact. Even the boiling water is not going to break them open. Tea with dried nettle, okay, you got a little nettle there, so you get 5 milligrams of calcium. But an infusion with 1 full ounce by weight of stinging nettle, which is the equivalent of a 1/4 pound of fresh nettle, is going to get you 250 milligrams of calcium because you use sufficient plant matter and because you let it brew for more than 4 hours, which is what it takes for mineral extraction. So we can heat sufficiently, we can freeze, we can cover in oil, we can dehydrate, and dehydrated grass is called hay. Right? I was privileged to have a pre-vet student. She was actually in veterinary college, and she did her externship with me, and she was a specialist in horses. And I said, okay, tell me about horses, right? I know how it is that goats eat cooked food, and I know how it is that rabbits eat cooked food. I said, but I don't understand, how does the horse cook its food? And she said, the horse can't cook its food. And that's why the horse is so tricky to deal with, because it's very hard for the horse to get any nutrition. Over 90% of what the horse eats comes out in its feces. Because even the horse cannot digest those and get through those cell walls. And I say, then what do you have to do? She says, then you have to feed it hay. I said, right, dehydrated plants. And she said, yes, out on the plains, the plants naturally dehydrate, and the horses graze that natural hay, and they can pick up nutrition from the dried grass. If you put a horse out on pasture, which is just green grass, your horse is not going to be healthy. And as a matter of fact, you could die from just being on grass. It really needs the hay, because nothing on this planet eats raw plants as a way to get nourished. There's no nutrition of any kind available from raw plants. So we can cook sufficiently, we can freeze, we can cover in oil, we can dehydrate, and the last, and some people say the very best way to cook your food is to ferment it. I'm driving through Germany. I'm not driving, somebody's driving me, and there's barley field and a barley field and a barley field. And we know barley is the miracle grain, right? You cook a cup of barley, you feed 100 people, and then you wonder what to do with the leftovers. Barley goes a long way. So I'm thinking, what are they doing with all this barley? And I say to the driver, what are you doing with all this barley? And she looks at me like, must be an American. And she says, beer. Yes, right. Of course, they're turning the barley into beer. And beer has 15 times more B vitamins than the barley does.
Weird, because the fermentation process.
Because the fermentation causes, plants make vitamins when they're stressed. So if you harvest a plant from your garden and eat it, it will have not nearly the vitamin content as if you harvest it and let it sit for a while. Because while it sits, it is going to be making vitamins because of that stress.
Amazing. Fermentation.
And then later at somebody's house, and there was this huge crock, like a crock from Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, right, which you could have hidden in, a full-grown adult could have hidden in this crock. And I said, Anna, what are you doing with that crock? And she says, that's the crock we used to make sauerkraut for the winter for the 2 of us.
Wow.
And sauerkraut has 10 times more vitamins, vitamin C, than the cabbage it started with.
Amazing.
A tablespoonful of sauerkraut is perhaps the easiest and the best way to protect yourself against any coronavirus. Tablespoon a day, that's all it takes.
You know, I had the question written down about asking you what you would recommend for our specific chapter, and you have, of course, answered that intuitively, so beautifully. You are quite the encyclopedia, Susan. I'm so grateful for the
and I have put that encyclopedia in here. Abundantly Well, the 7 medicines. We have serenity medicine, story medicine, mind medicine, lifestyle medicine, alternative medicine, pharmaceutical medicine, and deep medicine. All 7 medicines are available to us. We don't necessarily need to limit ourselves. And yet, how many times do people start with alternative medicine or start with pharmaceutical medicine. You see,
Mm.
they're arranged in this order because they're arranged on the pattern of first do no harm. Serenity medicine is not going to harm you.
Mm.
Deep medicine harms you. Even if it cures you, it harms you. There's definite harm involved in deep medicine. In fact, there's a gap between the first four medicines, serenity medicine, story medicine, mind medicine, lifestyle medicine, which are the foundations of good health. And then the gap, and then alternative medicine, pharmaceutical medicine, and deep medicine, which can save your life, but erode health.
Hmm. Sounds like a very interesting book.
So this brings you face to face with all 7 of those medicines and how you can use them to be abundantly well.
Well, you can tell that you are not new to this game. You are very well polished. I just want to say that I love the way that you use the word medicine for that book, because oftentimes when people think of medicine, they think of some type of oral thing that you take, like a medication or something, but medicine isn't just something that you ingest. Story medicine is so powerful, and I think that's something that the world really, really needs right now. So I'm just delighted to meet you and know that you are an incredible storyteller, and it seems like you really like telling stories. So
I do. I love to open, as you said, minds and hearts to the magic of the green nations, which are there for us. They're not changing their minds. They're not going to abandon us. They're not mad at us for any reason at all. They're here to ally with us and to help us.
That's
And they're
beautiful.
right outside your door. You know, that's the focus and the goal of my life and my teaching, is to restore herbal medicine to its rightful place as people's medicine. Herbal medicine is the medicine that's right outside your door. It's abundant, it's effective, and it's right there for you. And it doesn't take that much to begin your journey in learning about plants. Almost everybody already knows dandelion. And we're in the part of the year that throughout most of North America, dandelion is blooming, making it even easier to find. Dandelion is the world's most generous herb. Any part of dandelion, harvested any day of the year and prepared in any way, is a wonderful herbal medicine. You can't go wrong. Start with dandelion and see where that takes you.
Okay, thank you. You just answered another question that I didn't ask. Beautiful. Okay, so I know that you have got to get going soon, so I just want to wrap this up really quickly. So for anybody who wants to access more of what you're all about, what's your website?
SusunWeed.com, and you can spell it or misspell it. I keep the sun in Susun, S-U-S-U-N, but we own Susun Weed and Susan Weed, so if you misspell it, you'll get there anyhow. You might also want to drop by WiseWomanSchool.com, and there you'll find a wonderful array of video courses that I have available, as well as online learning opportunities. And I really enjoy making the video courses. This past winter, I went to Costa Rica, where my daughter lives, during the winter, and we did a wonderful video course called The Treasures of the Tropics.
Ooh.
Several years ago, we did a video course called Adaptogens, which has footage done down in Chinatown, and talking with some of the Chinese herbalists down there about adaptogens. And, you know, you were talking about Ayurveda. And Ayurveda has a subset called Rasayana. And Rasayana are the herbs for longevity. But it's not just herbs, it's also foods for longevity. And the adaptogens, of course, are the herbs for longevity, but the food for longevity is butter.
Amazing. Well,
Back to those animal fats, right?
Definitely. And, okay,
so visit me at thewisewomanschool.com. Come and visit my website. You can also go to wisewomanmentor.com. And there you'll have access to my e-zine, which comes out every 2 weeks, and an opportunity, should you choose it, to be a mentored student. Mentored students get talk time with me, and they also have access to special videos, the MP3s, and written works that are posted only there for the mentored students.
Beautiful. And I just want to recap to what you mentioned in the beginning, that you are offering a little free course for the
Yeah.
audience.
Yes, drink your way to health with Nourishing Herbal Infusions at wisewomenschool.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
And I'm sure there will be some code, which my wonderful Wise Woman team will send to you, and you will post that code so that people can then put that code in so they don't have to pay for that course. Also at wisewomenschool.com is my free course, a free 22-lesson course in how to prepare yourself for and get through COVID-19.
That is amazing. Wow. You are just such the epitome of what is possible for a woman. You seem like so many energies and aspects and just so much value. It's like, it's sometimes challenging for the mind to comprehend that one human being could have that much to them. So I just want to say thank you so much for being the amazing embodiment of everything that you are, and for gifting me your time and sharing yourself with me and the audience for this summit. It's just such a privilege and honor and a joy to have shared space with you in this time. Thank you so much, Susan.
And thank you too. Thank you for all you're doing to support and nourish women. We are reweaving the healing cloak of the ancients.
Yes, we are, and it feels really good.
And accepting the green blessings that are all around us. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a beautiful rest of your night, and everyone else, have a beautiful rest of your day. Aloha.